The 10 scariest toys in the world. Each and every one of them is creepy. They were banned from sale after a short time on the market because they were too creepy. Continuing our list of the 10 scariest toys in the world that were banned from sale. Number 5, Jack-in-the-Box. This is a very scary toy, or maybe it wasn't even designed to be played with by children. Rather, it was designed to scare children. In fact, the Jack-in-the-Box became a household name in the 16th century. What's even weirder is that it often sneaks out by itself in the middle of the night and plays scary music. It's like a monster toy from the horror movie Building 6. Number 4, Big Lou. This is a giant robot doll. It's more like a mummy than a robot. Just by looking at it, it gives you the creeps. Look at his glittering eyes and grinning teeth. Many children have reported when they go to sleep at night. He suddenly appears behind you and stares at you, and give you a creepy smile. Number 3, Phoebe's Pixie Hollow. This toy swept across the United States when it was released. It became one of the top 10 best-selling toys in the world. The most powerful feature of this toy is its language learning ability, and the ability to produce over 300 different expressions based on the 5 senses. However, at first the toy only spoke a language called Phoebe, but as time went on, it could learn English and Chinese by talking to its owner. It's this ability to learn that made people think it's so scary. It was once banned by the Pentagon. Number 2, the Troll Doll. The shape of this toy is more exaggerated. Just by looking at it, it's scary. He has an exaggerated color and weird hair, and a face like an old man. In China, this toy is usually called an Indian hairy child or ugly child. But in our country, it's very popular because of its unique shape. Because the shape is too exaggerated and bizarre. This toy was once banned from sale. Number 1, the TMX Elmo. This is one of the best-selling toys. If you touch it, it will make you laugh. Not only bends down and laughs, but also rolls around on the floor laughing. And when he's done laughing, he gets up. It's like seeing a ghost. The TMX Elmo was actually quite fun at first. But when the toy was activated, the sound of his laughter became more and more disturbing. Gradually, this disturbing laughter was used as a prank to terrorize people. So he became one of the scariest doll toys of all time.
The builder of the Burj Khalifa was truly a genius. What are the problems to be faced to build the tallest building in the world in the desert? First of all, the desert is often windy, and to be able to stand for a long time in the desert, where a Category 12 hurricane can occur at any time, the foundation is the most important part of the building, and the thickness of the foundation chassis alone is 3.7 meters. In the 1940s, it would have been impossible to pour such a sump in the desert heat, so engineers had to work at night and add enough ice to the water. Another problem, when constructing large buildings, is that the foundations sink a few centimeters during construction, but these sinkings are within safe limits, though this is relative to normal soil. Once the engineers had placed their measuring instruments 140 meters down underneath the Burj Khalifa, the engineers didn't find any solid hard straight either. There was just loose sand and soft sedimentary rock. Putting the foundation's chassis here, if the drop is too large, then the collapse is sooner or later. For this reason, the engineer came up with a method of inserting a sharp post into the sediment. After a certain depth, the post would not sink any further, and the sand around it would also bring about friction. So the engineers decided to put this kind of concrete pillars underneath the foundation chassis. The depth is about 50 meters deep, so that in the process of construction of the foundation sinking at the same time, the friction of the sand will make the whole chassis more solid. When it came to the construction stage, there was another problem to face. Normal concrete piles can be drilled directly with a drilling rig, but it was impossible to drill such holes in the desert soil, which would have collapsed around them and filled them with salt-laden groundwater. So the engineers injected drilling fluid into the hole as they drilled down, which created a slurry that prevented the inflow of soggy water while resisting soil collapse. A hollow pipe then needed to be put in, followed by rebar, and finally a very silky special concrete was poured in. The construction of these underground piles alone took 2.5 years. Then a layer full of rebar was laid on top, and the foundations of the Burj Khalifa were complete. Then after 6 months of testing, the engineers said that the Burj Khalifa could stand for a long time in 240-kilometer winds. Then they had to solve another problem. The concrete piles underneath the foundations would be corroded by seawater if the steel reinforcement inside them remained like this for a long time. To solve this problem, they made a cathode out of the rebar and used a titanium mesh to make an anode, and then fed it a DC current, which deposited electrons on top of the cathode, preventing the rebar from corroding. This way, the titanium anode mesh only needs to be replaced periodically.
This is the shortest-lived animal in the world. It's just one day. And they live that one day more than your whole life. Mayflies are primitive winged insects with ancient and unique characteristics. Its body is long and soft, usually only 3 to 27 millimeters. It's as small as dust. Mayflies live a beautiful but short life, and the reason they live is to find true love. When the adult mayflies have mated, the male mayfly will fall to the water surface and become bait for aquatic animals. And the female mayfly lays her eggs in the water. They die of exhaustion. Mayflies grow in 4 stages: eggs, larvae, subadults, and adults. When the eggs hatch, they have to undergo a long period of independent growth in the water. In the larval stage, mayflies live in the water. They need to stay dormant for more than a year to molt into subadults. At this stage, they have to go through 10 to 50 molts before they can slowly evolve to the winged subadult stage. When the mayfly's internal structure and wings have matured, they enter the feathering stage. Subadults molt into adults in about 24 hours. Once the mayfly becomes an adult, their mouths deteriorate. It loses its ability to feed. They can only rely on the energy they have stored in their body. This also means that they are about to leave the water. The moment they come out of the water, it means they are counting down their lives. They have one ultimate goal. They have only a few hours left to find the one they want and mate. Every spring and summer, millions of mayflies will turn into adults, fluttering through the air to mate, lurking underwater for 3 years. All for one fleeting moment. Knowing they'll die next, they're still trying their best to feel the beauty of this fleeting moment. After a few hours of work, they'll end up dying quietly like their parents. Life comes to an abrupt end at the brightest moment. Live for a while and die for a while. That's basically the life of a mayfly, because the mayfly's life is so short. It's like being a mayfly and dreaming for thousands of years. In fact, life is very fragile. Life is like a mayfly. In the blink of an eye will have no head to turn into a whitehead. When we lament the shortness of life, why don't we live it to the fullest? How amazing is the process of a fertilized egg becoming a human being? When a fertilized egg is laid, how do you go from a cell to a human being? After watching this, I can't help but marvel at the greatness of life. In fact, each one of us is one in a billion, the chosen one. We met the egg cell and became what you are today. During a woman's menstrual cycle, there is a stage called ovulation. If the egg is not fertilized after ovulation, the uterine lining will shed to form the menstruation. If the egg is fertilized, it will move to the uterus and develops into an embryo. And so begins the miraculous process of the birth of a life. When the fertilized egg is laid, the fertilized egg has already divided into a ball of cells. It's only 0.2 millimeters in size, but it's already swollen into a blastocyst made up of trophoblast, ectoderm, and endoderm. This hollow ball will turn into 2 layers within a few days. The cell mass piles up on one side of the ball. The walls will later become the placenta and the amniotic membrane. The cells inside will form the embryo. During the 6th week of pregnancy, the embryo will slowly take the shape of a tiny bud. It's only the size of a soybean, but it's already developing a heart and kidneys, and its facial features will begin to develop. And during conception, the genetic material from the parents determines the baby's sex and appearance. So do you look more like your mom or your dad? In the first 3 months of pregnancy, the fetus is basically formed, the arms and legs have grown. The bones of the whole body are slowly taking shape. The respiratory system is also developing, although the baby's skin is still translucent. But the arms and legs can bend. By 4 or 5 months, the genitals have developed to the point where they can clearly tell the sexes. At this time, boredom will cause you to kick and punch in your mother's belly. Occasionally, you'll play with the umbilical cord. and mom can clearly feel it. By 6 months of age, your sense of hearing has matured. You won't be so bored you start to listen to your mom's heartbeat and intestinal gurgling, and even listen to your mom and dad's conversations through your mom's belly. So every life is a gift from God. Every mother is an angel of goodness,